for an exclusive forum featuring the candidates for LA County District Attorney. Join KBLA's Tavis Smiley as he helps navigate what promises to be a forum full of fire when the candidates trying to unseat current LADA George Gascon come together on stage on the campus of the Charles R. Drew University of Medicine and Science. Again, it's the LA County District Attorney Forum, live, exclusively on KBLA Talk 1580, Saturday morning, January 13th, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Helping to raise your civic IQ. We're KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Here we are. Wanna feel you giving more to me. Kiss me like you mean it. Pull a white flag from your sleeve. When I fall down, will I fall in your direction? Will I own you till the morning?
Welcome in. It is Wednesday. You are locked in to RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. I hope that you are relaxed, chilled out, that you had an amazing day, and now you are ready to get updated on all the trending topics and headlines across entertainment, sports, lifestyle, and culture with me, Jill Munroe. First up, let me ask you a question. Are you following us on social media? Hit us up everywhere, KBLA 1580. Hit me up personally at Stiletto Jill. You know I love to hear from you. And, of course, download the app. That way you can listen at your leisure. If you have to, jet out for a minute. Jet out, that's so 80s. And if you would like the visual to go along with this audio experience, hit us up on YouTube. You can watch not only my show, but the other shows that are on the station. So, of course, we have a lot to talk about. And I'm going to give you a rundown of the topics that we're going to get into here tonight. In hour one, we're going to discuss Boy George. Do you remember him? The lead man of the Goop Culture Club. They came out in the 80s. Really, for the MTV generation, one of the first gender-bending artists to be introduced mainstream. Many might not remember that time. Well, he has a new memoir coming out, and in it, he talks about his relationship with Janet Jackson and Tina Turner, and he says that he and Janet will never be friends. So we're going to get into that. Also, 50 Cent, 50. He says that people think that he is joking about wanting to get Taraji paid and get her on one of his projects. He said he's serious. So serious, in fact, that he floated the number, well, the number's floating, that Mary J. Blige gets per episode. So we're going to get into that. And, is 50 quietly, well, not so quietly because it's 50, really helping to up the stakes for Black women as a man who has gotten a lot of heat for, his treatment or at least conversation around them. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to get into a little bit of beef on the sports media side. Stephen A. Smith said that he had to email his ESPN bosses and call his pastor before he lit fire on this individual on his podcast this afternoon. We'll get into the details of who that was and what Stephen A. had to say. Plus, Jane Fonda discussed when she got the taste slapped out of her mouth for using the N-word. We're going to talk a little Regina Hall. And we're going to talk about a Reddit question. There's a question that was posed on Reddit that we're going to get into later. But let me just give you the scenario. A woman was dating a man for almost 20 years. And she found out he cheated on her, and they broke up. So she went on about her way, started dating someone else, had a child. The man also apparently got married and had a child. Well, he passed away somewhere in that time period and left his ex-girlfriend $700,000. The wife and her parents want her to give the money back. So we're going to get into the details of that, plus a whole lot more. You know how it goes down. We always have a bunch of stories to get into. And because it is Wednesday, we have our Keep It Real friend in the building, Trent Jackson, Trent the artist. But before we get into all of that, we have a couple of conversation starters for you. You know, stories that we can't get into the full thing tonight, but I want you to be aware. First up, Young Thug, you know, he is on trial currently in Atlanta, RICO charges. Well, apparently today, someone hacked into the Zoom feed and took over it and screamed, "Free Thug, mistrial," over and over again, causing the judge to take a brief recess. Are you guys really out there breaking into courthouse streams? Like, I'm sure that's all types of illegal on different levels. To free Young Thug? I don't know. We're in an interesting time. 2024, man. Also, Don Lemon, you know, one of our faves from CNN, who was let go 9 months ago, which he felt was unfair and blindsided him. He announced that he has a new show coming, but you won't be able to watch it on another network. It's actually going to be streamed live on X, and then it'll be available in all your favorite podcast areas. But first, exclusively on X. So his statement was, "It will be available to everyone easily, whenever and wherever you want it, streaming on the platforms where the conversations are happening. And you'll find it first on X, the biggest space for free speech in the world." Lemon said he wanted to create a space for honest debate and discussion without hall monitors and encourage viewers to stay tuned. So, you know, X probably dropped the bag. It's really interesting considering some comments that people are discussing Elon liking as of recently on his platform. But we'll get into that and more stories later regarding that. Also, if you are interested, check out Simone Biles. She is on the cover of Vanity Fair, and she's discussing all things about, you know, being an Olympic champion, the most decorated Olympic gymnast, and of course, her marriage. And she says getting married meant more to her than her Olympic titles. And some people are upset about that. But hey, you feel how you feel. Love is a beautiful thing. When we come forward, more trending topics and headlines. You were locked in to RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580.
Infusing a sense of fun and entertainment in every episode. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
More when we come forward.
So, what are you doing this Friday morning? How about you come join the KBLA delegation as we make a historic announcement and unveil our climate justice campaign for 2024. We'll be assembled for this major press conference along with LA Mayor Karen Bass, Ben Jealous, Executive Director of the Sierra Club, and a host of other public and private leaders who are joining us on this journey to justice, climate justice. We can't think of a better way to kick off the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. holiday weekend, linking social justice and climate justice. So, come join us this Friday morning at 10:30 a.m. at the beautiful MLK Memorial Tree Grove at the top of Kenneth Hahn Park off La Cienega. Once again, that's this Friday morning, January 12th at 10:30 a.m. as we take on the task of elevating the climate conversation by amplifying the voices of those who are most impacted by the climate catastrophes we are all witnessing in real time. KBLA delegation, we hope to see you this Friday morning at KBLA Talk 1580. Climate is king. Climate is king. Climate is king. Climate is king.
JP Morgan Chase is building on the investments in California and around the country to help close the racial wealth gap and build a more equitable future. As part of JP Morgan Chase commitment, they are taking action to help improve financial wealth and access to banking in the Black community, helping more people open low-cost checking and savings accounts, hosting community seminars with supporting Black-led institutions by building awareness about financial investments, hiring community managers, and opening community center branches like Crenshaw, Inglewood, and downtown LA. Visit today, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Again, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Get the tools to help reach your financial goals. Visit today, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Again, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity.
You can do it all by yourself, baby girl. What's your name? Let me talk to you. Let me buy you a drink.
Spilled your drink? Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up spills quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less than the leading ordinary brand. So you can get back to your night.
Buy you a drink.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. Even easier than choosing Charles Barkley in a pickup game.
We'll take Barkley.
Ha! First pick. Sorry, kids.
Yep, even easier than that. With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, is it even a decision?
Okay, here's the plan. Pass me the ball every time.
This is banking reimagined. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One NA, member FDIC.
Hey, keeping you informed, entertained, and always ahead of the curve. This is RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
You were locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. And as I shared, it is Wednesday. So, that means that I am not alone. I am joined by our Keep It Real friend, Trent Jackson. Trent, the artist, in the building. Welcome in.
Hi.
Hello.
How
Indeed.
are you?
Indeed. So, how are you?
I'm all over the place today.
It's one of those days.
And I'm not mad at anybody, and I'm not complaining. I'm very grateful. I'm just reminded that I need to work on my time management skills.
Okay.
Because it's my fault that I'm tired.
You're overextended.
Not even overextended. It's just I need to say no to things that are not in alignment with what I need to be doing.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay.
And it's all my fault.
And
I've got to be responsible. So next time, when I wake up in the middle of the night, instead of going to party and hang out, I should just go to the studio and work.
Okay, personal accountability. We
Yeah.
like that in 2024.
But I'm always talking to myself crazy. So.
Okay. All right.
Because if I don't do it, somebody else will, and I don't like other people talking crazy to me. I can do that by myself.
I hear that. Well, before we get into Boy George and his memoir, shout out to Regina Hall.
She's so funny to me.
We love Regina. It was announced that she is going to be starring in a film with Leonardo DiCaprio and Sean Penn.
Wow.
It's not titled yet, but it begins production in a couple weeks here in California, and it is being directed by Paul Thomas Anderson. You can look him up, and big things are happening. Gabrielle Union shouted her out, saying that when she was in a meeting one time, whomever she was in a meeting with, the executive shared with her that Regina King was the number 2 most bankable film
Regina
star.
King or Regina Hall?
I'm sorry, Regina Hall. Thank you very much for that correction and distinction, because we're going to talk a little Regina King later.
Yeah, I saw Regina King today. She looked very uncomfortable.
Are you talking about with the Angela Bassett
with that picture?
Governor's thing?
Yeah, look, she looked very uncomfortable in that picture. Maybe that's just my opinion, but she looked uncomfortable.
Well, we'll get into that in a little bit, because we're going to talk about the speech. We talked about it last night. Trent is referencing Angela Bassett received her honorary Oscar last night at the Governor's Ball, looking amazing in gold and just glowing and really happy. And I know, I do wonder if this is going to be a thing, right, with these honorary Oscars, where it's, a culmination of your career and not per se a particular performance. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but sometimes it feels like,
And also, I see what you're saying. Sometimes it feels like, let me just give her something to
make them,
to appease her
because Samuel L. Jackson got one last year, and again, both more than deserving of that honor of being honored with Oscars.
And I would like to think that they're doing this because they've overlooked her so many times, and in hindsight, it's like, oh, we should have given her that there. We should have given her that there. Everything that she was nominated for and got overlooked on. We all know that she got robbed for Tina Turner.
Facts.
She should have got that Oscar.
because
Even if that was the only one, that's the one that she should have gotten. I think that's the one that would have been most important to her.
yeah, that performance was she embodied Tina.
She did that.
She
Did that
from everything.
Yeah.
Um. So yeah. So kudos to Regina Hall. Gabby was showing support of Regina, who she's also been in several films with, right? And this comes on the heels of, I'm not sure if you saw this story or heard about this. I don't know why people go through people's likes that they're not involved in.
People just don't have enough. They have too much time on their hands, and they're not focused on themselves. That's the issue. They're focused on everything else but themselves.
Perhaps, but they discovered that Gabby had liked a tweet about, the comments with Vivica Fox saying that in her experience, she had not experienced, the same type of issues Taraji was describing she underwent, throughout her career. And some people felt that Vivica was undercutting Taraji by saying that. Others feel that, if that's Vivica's experience, that is her experience. She said love to them, etc., etc. But Gabby liked a tweet of someone saying Taraji's had a better career than Vivica's and something to that extent, which, debatable. I don't think so.
Yeah,
I think they're about...
Yeah, about the same.
Vivica was the girl in the 90s.
In the 90s, yes.
And, think about it. She was in Kill Bill, Independence
Opened the
Day.
door for Taraji.
What else was she in that was huge? Batman and Robin, Curb Your Enthusiasm, Ella Enchanted. So,
I
people
think
have short memories.
They very much so. And also because it's, I like to call this the internet generation. They didn't pay attention to what came before them. But I think also too because Vivica has pivoted.
Yeah, because she's doing...
Because those roles have since dried up and they've moved on. She's no longer the it girl. So it's like, what do you do?
You produce stuff.
You
and
produce.
Stuff
you
for,
make you make wigs and you do other things.
And people are clowning because of that, but also, and this is no shade to Taraji at all, because conditions aren't fair. And I would imagine Vivica probably has endured something.
Oh, come on.
But I just think Vivica's approach is much different. And Vivica is not, saying that she's having problems paying her bills. That's not shade, though.
No, it's not shade. And I think, well, let me just be quiet on that.
Okay. But shout out to them all. Because
shout out to Vivica Fox,
a real
South
thing.
Bend's finest.
And, I want to see them all win. I appreciate them in various forms and fashions that we have seen them out there. Here's the exact tweet. Gabby said, I was once at a meeting of some of the most powerful actresses in Hollywood. Data was presented of the 10 most bankable actresses working. Regina Hall was number 2. Interesting that the most bankable list wasn't, surprise, exactly the same as the highest paid actresses. So her point is, the ones that are bringing it in and, causing all of, the moments, all of the things that collectively go into the marketing mix for projects now. The highest paid actresses weren't necessarily matching up with the top. So speaking of Gabby, her husband, Dwayne Wade, is joining in with the other athletes, and he's launching a podcast. His podcast is called Why. It's with iHeartMedia, and the first episode drops January 17th, and it will feature interviews between himself and athletes, musicians, entrepreneurs, and more.
The reason why, and you looked at me when because I feel a way about these podcasts and these people on these podcasts. I just really do. It's like, stop. If you're not going to talk about anything real and you're just going to be, I feel like because there's been so much surrounding Dwayne Wade and his family, that this will actually be interesting because I know that somewhere down the line he's going to address all of that. And I'm here for it. I probably won't listen, but I'm here for it.
Well, I'll check in and tap in.
Because I don't listen to other people's podcasts.
Why not?
Just because I produce my own show and I want to maintain its integrity and its purity.
So you don't feel that if you absorb content in the same space that you have the ability to do that?
I try not to talk about anything other people are talking about, not even remotely.
Okay, I get that.
So I like to be aware of who has a podcast. I mean, I'll listen to an episode, but it's not like I'm going to listen consistently. I'll subscribe and, do certain things, or, listen to maybe a couple, one or two, but it's not anything I consistently listen to.
Okay, got you.
Yeah.
And so, in continuing on with new releases that are dropping, Sanaa Lathan is going to star and executive produce a new. Why are you laughing?
You know why I'm laughing.
Because she bit Beyonce.
That's why.
Don't say that. Tiffany Haddish was tipsy.
I didn't say it. You said it.
That's what you remind. Tiffany Haddish was tipsy when she said that. And we're going to
Isn't
talk
she
about
always
Tiffany
tipsy?
later. No, actually. We're going to talk about that later.
Has she been to AA?
We're going to talk about that later in the show.
I mean, she's been driving drunk lately.
We're going to talk about that later in the show. So, Sanaa has a new series called Miss Cleo. And yes, it is based on Call Me Now,
Okay.
Miss Cleo.
Okay.
The popular online, well, she wasn't online. She was on the phone.
Yeah.
Psychic Readers Network commercials. She was featured in them from 1997 to 2003. And she has a, crazy backstory.
Well, there was a documentary on her, so I saw that, and it was a very good documentary. Some very much wild moments. So why are we having a series, Sanaa?
Because the documentary had some wild moments.
And they wanted to dive in and explore and unpack some?
I guess so.
I can get with it.
Sanaa will be starring and executive producing it.
That makes sense. That's good for her. I like I like her in Cleo.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'll watch that.
You'd watch that? I'm going to check it out.
Yeah, Sanaa, all right.
So did you hear about the Alaska Airlines plane?
I was going to read about that before I took my nap tonight because people were mortified. They were saying they were going to die, and all. I wanted to read the personal accounts of the people on the plane.
So what happened was the door plug
Flew off. Yeah.
mid-flight, right?
And let me just say something. See, and this is,
and that's why I don't sit by the exit.
and this is why I don't fly on low discount airlines. No shade on saving money, but this would have never happened on a Delta flight, and I stand by that.
Okay.
You think people is paying $600 per seat to sign up for death?
Did Delta have any of those planes? The Max, what were they? I don't want to say the wrong number.
I think it's 900s.
I thought it was, well, I'm not sure. I'll look it up. But here's the thing. So, people, phones got sucked out. There was this whole thing about the iPhone that dropped.
And they dropped and it had the baggage information still on the screen. Isn't that wild?
So, guess how much Alaska Airlines wants to compensate the passengers?
Something stupid like $250.
A little more than that.
$500.
$1,500.
They out there rabbit minds.
And a full refund of their original ticket.
They are out there rabbit minds.
I was like, that seems a little low.
That's very low.
For the whole window to be sucked out.
I smell a class action lawsuit.
You think so?
Oh, absolutely.
Against Boeing or against Alaska?
All of them. Because it's Alaska's responsibility to check them damn planes to make sure stuff like this don't happen. So that means that your mechanics wasn't on their job. And Boeing, they knew that they sent them planes out with that faulty thing. So they're at fault too. So I'm suing y'all. I want my money back. And if you want me to fly on this airline again, you need to give me credits for at least the next 10 years. And lounge access.
Does Alaska have a lounge?
They do.
Okay. All right. So, we'll
and they also fly to Belize.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's very random.
Very random.
Or very specific, depending upon which end you are on.
Specific and random. How do I know that? I'm not saying that I've been, but I know. I was surprised when I found out they had a lounge.
On Alaska?
And I used to fly Alaska when I was living in D.C. because they had direct flights. So flight 4 and 5 are direct flights from LAX to Reagan.
I feel you on that. When I worked at Nike, I would fly Alaska to Portland quite a bit same thing.
And actually, they have it's a nice airline. It's
It
not
is.
bad,
They bought,
surprisingly.
I was so sad. They bought Virgin America. That was my favorite airline.
I love those purple
They bought
lights.
them.
It was so
I
relaxing.
loved being able, and I think a lot of airlines have caught up. I love being able to just order my food from the screen anytime
Yes,
I want it.
that was
My
a
snacks.
nice boutique airline. I like that. I flew Virgin coming when I moved back from DC after I graduated college. I flew Virgin America.
That was my favorite airline.
Yeah.
I miss it. So, in addition to new series dropping, there is a Netflix documentary coming, a docu-series. So there was one that came out that they produced called Quarterback, and it was about the top quarterbacks in the NFL, and it followed them around, gave some insight, was, highly acclaimed. So they are continuing on that path, and they have 5 players for the first season of an NBA-style one, and it will feature LeBron James, Jimmy Butler, Anthony Edwards, Jason Tatum, and Domantas Sabonis.
That sounds fun. I would watch that. Is it? It's a series.
It's going to be a series.
An
yeah.
episodic.
Yep.
Okay.
So I would
On
imagine.
each player.
I don't know how it's broken up. If they follow each one of their storylines throughout each episode, or if they focus each episode on a player. I suppose we'll see. But I'm definitely curious to check it out.
Yeah, they're interesting players. So
I'm surprised. I mean, obviously it's the NBA, so it's a little different from your typical, docu-series type thing. But I'm really surprised LeBron agreed to do this, and it's not connected to his Spring Hill Entertainment Company.
I think in my mind, as people get older, their perspectives change and they grow. So they become a little. In my mind, he's like, I'm only doing this, and I'm doing it this way. But now he's like, oh well, yeah, I'll do it. He's kind of getting older, getting closer to retirement age. Getting maybe a little nicer.
We'll see. So listen. Wait, why do you think LeBron's not nice?
I said nicer.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So not implying that he wasn't nice.
Nicer.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just surprised. I'm curious to see what. I did not watch Quarterback. I read a great deal about it, but I just didn't have the time to catch on to it to see. So curious to see the NBA version.
Yeah, that sounds a little more exciting to me.
I think they had good players on that. Well, listen, when we come forward, we're going to get into Boy George and Janet Jackson. He has a lot to say. And
I do not take kindly to Janet Jackson slander on any level.
Not at all.
Even though she is not a nice.
Well, pause. We're going to put a pin in that, and we will get into it on the other side. You were locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580. News and sports on the other side.
Come to tell me that you're leaving. Leave nothing behind. My name is a messenger. My name is a truth.
RSVP with Jill Munroe is your go-to show for staying in the know. More engaging conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. It appears fewer migrants from Texas and Louisiana are being dropped off at New Jersey Transit train stations for a train ticket into New York. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy tells Fox 5 that in the last couple of days, the frequency of bus drop-offs has decreased dramatically. This comes after Phil Murphy demanded the charter bus companies carrying migrants from the southern border give at least 32 hours notice. Black New York City Mayor Eric Adams says Texas Governor Greg Abbott started using New Jersey as a workaround to a new city rule requiring notice and limiting the time migrant buses can arrive at Port Authority bus terminals. Angela Bassett and Mel Brooks accepted honorary Oscars at the annual Governor's Award. Bassett paid tribute to the 10 black women who have won Oscars and expressed hope that there would be more opportunities for people of color moving forward. The 97-year-old Brooks was honored for a lifetime in the business going back to the 1950s. That's the latest. I'm Amber Payton on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
Wendy's Breakfast 2 for $3 Biggie Bundles lets you choose your perfect duo from your fave 4, like a sausage or egg and cheese biscuit, small seasoned potatoes, or medium hot coffee. Limited time only during breakfast hours. U.S. price and participation may vary. Not valid in the combo. Single item at regular price.
So, what are you doing this Friday morning? How about you come join the KBLA delegation as we make a historic announcement and unveil our climate justice campaign for 2024. We'll be assembled for this major press conference along with LA Mayor Karen Bass, Ben Jealous, Executive Director of the Sierra Club, and a host of other public and private leaders who are joining us on this journey to justice, climate justice. We can't think of a better way to kick off the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. holiday weekend, linking social justice and climate justice. So, come join us this Friday morning at 10:30 a.m. at the beautiful MLK Memorial Tree Grove at the top of Kenneth Hahn Park off La Cienega. Once again, that's this Friday morning, January 12th at 10:30 a.m. as we take on the task of elevating the climate conversation by amplifying the voices of those who are most impacted by the climate catastrophes we are all witnessing in real time. KBLA delegation, we hope to see you this Friday morning at KBLA Talk 1580. Climate is king. 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 KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles is a nonprofit law firm that protects and advances the rights of the most underserved, leveling the playing field and ensuring that everyone can have access to the justice system. Every year, LAFLA provides free, high-quality legal services to more than 100,000 people living in poverty across greater Los Angeles. Their unique combination of neighborhood offices, self-help centers at courthouses, and domestic violence clinics puts Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles on the front lines in vulnerable communities and at the forefront of change. LAFLA's expert team of attorneys, paralegals, and support staff works to provide direct representation, offer counsel and advice, provide referrals, and educate the community about their legal rights through workshops and seminars. With locations all over LA, you can access their services or volunteer to help no matter where you live. And if you have an urgent issue, call 213-235-0060. That's 213-235-0060. To get legal help, make a donation, or volunteer, visit lafla.org. lafla.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey LA, save water and put money in your pocket with rebates from LA DWP. Start saving with free shower heads and faucet aerators. Then save with every flush when you upgrade to a water-efficient toilet and get a $250 rebate. You can also save on every load of laundry with a high-efficiency clothes washer and get a $500 rebate. That's right, LA DWP customers can get $500 rebates on qualifying clothes washers. See all the ways to save at ladwp.com/save.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions because we've got your black. Listen up. If you're one of the more than 100,000 California tenants who were rejected or delayed when applying for COVID rental assistance, you've got a second chance. Under the terms of a new settlement, California's Housing and Community Development Department agreed to audit its past denials. The program ended in March 2022, but the advocacy groups Alliance of Californians for Community Empowerment, Policy Link, and Strategic Actions for a Just Economy sued the department. According to the coalition's analysis of state data, the department rejected nearly 30% of all applicants. Under the settlement, the department agreed to clear all renters in the pipeline within 6 months. The settlement applies to anyone who sought assistance from the state's Housing is Key program before April 1st, 2022, whose applications is pending or was denied after June 6, 2022. Tenants who have questions about the status of their application can call the hotline at 833-430-2122. That's 833-430-2122. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. Curating the most compelling stories and delivering them straight to your ears. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
Janet. What is it? 31 years now when this dropped? Wow. Welcome back into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. Between, it changes, but Janet and Velvet Rope, those are my favorite Janet.
Allow me some time to play with you. I'm sorry. I got carried away.
Okay.
I know that song word for word, line by line, note by note.
Listen, Janet is an icon.
Some of the choreography, too.
Janet birthed a lot of these.
She birthed all the girls.
So.
Which is why she can't be bothered. And she stays unbothered. So unbothered, she moved out of the country.
That's not why she moved out of the country, though.
Well, that's part of it, but.
So, Boy George, he was the lead singer of the 80s group Culture Club. One of the first in the MTV era to kind of put, it was called more gender bending back then.
Androgynous, yeah.
Androgynous, yep. I don't know how he's later described himself or whatever. I know there's been some documentaries and so forth about their journey. I remember bringing that album home and my mom looked at me and was like, what's going on? She was like, what is this?
I remember hearing that song in the backseat of my mom's Bug in the 80s.
Oh, a Bug. How cute. So anyway, he has a memoir dropping. Well, it's already out, actually. It's called Karma, My Autobiography. And it discussed his 4 decades in show business, right? And so, of course, in the autobiography, the anecdotes, the little stories are the things that people live for. Well, George talked about his relationship, so to speak, or some interactions that he had with both Janet and Tina. And
okay, first of all, if you're not friends with nobody, y'all don't have a relationship. So let's just.
They might be associates, they're peers, or they were at the time.
Y'all are acquaintances, co-workers at best.
Okay. Well, he shared that the two met back in the day at, do you remember the show Solid Gold?
Yes, with Darcel, the dancer.
Yes, with the long black braids.
I should tell my mom to listen to the show tonight
Solid
because she will tell you that I was in front of the TV doing Solid Gold numbers.
And Dionne Warwick used to host?
Yes.
In the early parts. Well, so he said he was a big Janet fan. That he, had brought an armful of her records, and approached her without his makeup on. So he didn't have his face on. He wasn't Boy George. He was just a guy, right? And so he said that she wasn't friendly and didn't try to be. And so he said he just walked off and went and got himself together to be Boy George. And he said that one of her crew then, later approached him with a video camera and asked him to record a message for Janet. And he said that he said into the camera, "Next time you meet someone, be nice." So someone came later and, brought him into Janet's dressing room, and she said that she didn't recognize him earlier when she crossed paths with him. And so he asked her, "Are you saying you would have been nice to me if you knew who I was?" And it was just an awkward moment. I imagine like that gif with we're not supposed to talk about him right now, huh?
Who?
Diddy. From whatever the show was where he and the contestant were just staring at each other.
Okay, yes.
That's what I imagine happening.
Yes.
And before, it's like, leave me.
Him describing this moment, because I've interacted with Janet Jackson before, I can see exactly how this played out.
And so then he said that a few years later, he ran into her in the UK. They have a show called Tops of Pops. And that she looked straight through him, ice glare, didn't give him anything. And he said that, when you write a book like this, there's a chance you're going to bump into someone that you've written about. And I have to say that what I've written about the people is the truth. And that's what happened and how they behaved. He's 62 at this point, and he said, "I'm comfortable with that. I'm always someone who's prepared to bury the hatchet because there's always another opportunity to be different." But he said, at this point, there's certain people I'm never going to be friends with unless a miracle happens, and I put Janet in that category. He also said that his run-in with Tina, he said he didn't expand too much on it in the memoir. These are comments that he gave to People magazine, but he said she wasn't nice to him and it was a shame. He said that Elton John had invited him to perform somewhere, and afterwards they were in a dressing room with the actress Faye Dunaway, Ben Kingsley. These are like, old school actors, and it was a lot of big stars, and it was a small room, he said. And when Elton introduced him to Tina turned her back on him. And he said he left the room upset, and Faye Dunaway followed him out. And he said he never understood why Tina had that reaction to him. But then he adds, which is like, George, you think? He was like, maybe it was the drugs. I had just come off drugs, so maybe she was disapproving of that. But he said he had become a Buddhist since then. It adds that, Tina's a Buddhist, and that he was the biggest Tina fan on the planet, and he forgave her and loved her for it. He said he loves Janet's music. He loves Madonna's music as well. I guess he must have talked some Madonna shade in there as well. But he said, when you're supposed to write things about other artists, he said it's also a note to self to remember that perhaps there's been times in your life when you weren't friendly to everyone you met. It's 1,000% easier to be nice. Not only is it easier to be nice, it's better for you. So, that's a lot.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I don't take away from anybody's experience. And matter of fact, I applaud him for even sharing his experience about such a regarded celebrity who has the image of being a kind-hearted, genuinely nice person. Okay. And you always hear that, oh, she was so kind, she's so nice. And then you hear this one story where, no, she wasn't so nice. There are a lot of things at play. I'll lead with this. Wendy Williams told me once, and I always go back to this, she said, never be friends with the people that you idolize because they will always let you down. Okay. I have met people before that I've been fans of their work. They were not nice people. And that's just it. Some people have, in their defense, in this industry, there's so many awkward moments that are to be had. You don't know who's who. You don't know who's walking up to you. And this is like not an excuse because you should always be kind, especially when you're a public figure, right? But let's just use Janet. Janet grew up very sheltered. She grew up very rich. She grew up in a different world than most people, okay? In a time where, in the 70s, okay? So she is just a different mindset. So just imagine you're not all the way Janet Jackson yet, right? Okay, you're Michael Jackson's little sister for all intents and purposes. And you're just somewhere just minding your business and some random person just walks up to you. You don't know what's happening, okay? So it can be a little weird. And then when you realize in hindsight, when you're used to having people do things for you, like, you know, you go and that's how it is when you're a celebrity. You go and send somebody comes and gets you and you come usher back. When someone does that, and that's usually how it goes with certain celebrities, it was already like, I'm sorry. And when someone is kind of awkward socially anyway, like Janet Jackson is, you kind of don't know what to say. So that was she was probably trying to extend an olive branch and didn't want to make it any more awkward. And then when you have somebody like, be more nice, you should have been nice, and then you come into someone's personal dressing room and then you're confrontational a little bit more, that's a little off-putting, and they're not going to be friendly to you. And the next time that they see you, because you were so off-putting and, you know, trying to check them, they're probably not going to say anything to you. I wouldn't have said anything to you. I would have just been like, oh, there's, you know, such and such. There's Boy George, you know, the guy who checked me, so let me not say anything because he's a nasty person. That's what my perception would have been. You know what I'm saying? It's people, you catch them at awkward moments. You never know what, but again, when you come at somebody and say, you should have been nicer, or giving somebody a directive who's already a bullhorns, you know, it's not going to go well.
Well, listen, when we come forward, we'll have more on that and more trending topics, of course. You're locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580.
Trending topics and the hottest happenings. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
Substance use disorder and addiction is so isolating. And so, as a Black woman in recovery, hope must be loud. It grows louder when you ask for help and you're vulnerable. It is the thread that lets you know that no matter what happens, you will be okay.
When we learn the power of hope, recovery is possible. Find out how at startwithhope.com. Brought to you by the National Council for Mental Wellbeing, Shatterproof, and the Ad Council.
I started vaping my freshman year of high school, mostly because all my friends had vapes. I wanted to fit in with them and look cool and be a part of everything that they were doing. The hardest part about quitting for me was all my friends still hitting their vapes right next to me. It was really frustrating and confusing when I was trying to quit because in my head I knew I didn't want to do it anymore, but for some reason my brain still wanted it.
No quit story is the same. For free support, text Kick Nicotine to 66819 today.
Oh, this cold.
Honey?
Honey?
Honey, you need DayQuil Severe Honey.
DayQuil Severe Honey gives you powerful cold and flu symptom relief with a honeylicious taste, because life doesn't stop for a cold.
Okay, I'm ready to go.
Now I'm getting a cold.
Honey.
Try DayQuil Severe Honey for powerful cold and flu relief. DayQuil Severe with honey flavor. The daytime coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever, honeylicious, power through your day medicine. Use as directed. Keep out of reach.
KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA reminds you that when we fight, we win, and we don't black down. LA Community Action Network, or LA CAN, was formed in 1999 when 25 residents of downtown LA came together and acknowledged the problems that existed in their community and made a commitment to do something about those problems, to stand together, organize, and become a force in the community that demands change. Civil rights and preventing the criminalization of poverty are their core projects. In addition, they take on women's rights, the human right to housing, and healthy food access. LA CAN also has projects focused on economic development, civic participation, voter engagement, and community media. While downtown LA remains their home base, with a particular emphasis on the Skid Row community, in 2007 they expanded their housing and healthy food access work into South Central Los Angeles. LA CAN believes that power for low-income people and people of color is achieved through a large, active, and well-informed member base that utilizes a multitude of methods to advance their messages and goals. If you'd like to join the Los Angeles Community Action Network and organize people to fight back against oppression, please visit cangress.org. That's cangress.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
back to more captivating conversation on RSVP with Jill Munroe.
You were locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. So, after months and side note, shout out to Janet. I feel you on that. I mean, sometimes you just don't know. You should always be kind, though. But
And for the most part, I believe that she is. But I also know that she is socially awkward. And sometimes she will just look at you because she doesn't know what to say or how are you coming at her. I think she's become a little bit more open with older age. Yeah, she's made some changes. I think she's a little bit more social than she has been in prior times.
Well, shout out to Janet, one of my faves. So, after months of speculation and dodging social media inquiries, Halle Bailey and her boyfriend DDG finally announced the birth of their son a few days ago, right? And so his name is Halo, by the way. And it's been reported that friends close to the couple allegedly found it strange, but respected their decision to keep the pregnancy private. And they said they wanted to protect their baby and protect their relationship from public scrutiny, which I feel and I understand that. But do we think that they really did a good job with that? Do we feel like they saved themselves from the conversation and speculation?
I'm not a pregnant lady, so I can't talk on that, but let's just take a stab at it. If we're going to, you can't hide a pregnancy, okay? That's number one. But if you're going to disguise it, it's better for people to find out, let's say, at month 7 versus month 2 or 6 or 5, because that's a whole lot of energy being directed your way.
You're right, but with the internet and the fans, they found out relatively early and looked for everything, every moment in a video. They were looking at the reflection when she posted something up. They were like, "Oh, you posted that picture. I recognize that dress from the photo shoot that you did."
Were there a lot of pictures of her pregnant, though?
There were. Well, yes, because she.
And what's a lot? Are we talking about 10? Are we talking about 12? Are we talking about more than that?
I'm not sure of the exact number, but
once a month?
She was photographed out. She was doing press for various things, interviews, press outside, attending events and so forth, where she was walking the red carpet. So kind of in the similar fashion of Keke Palmer, her stylist picked outfits that, probably with empire waist or fuller selections like one. And again, this is in fashion-wise. She wore like a boxy suit to something. But the thing is, when you're pregnant, in most cases, it's going to make that little point, that tent pump around your belly. But I know their intended purpose, and I understand the energy. But I also feel like when you saw your fans were tapping in anyway, I'm not saying that at that point they had to put it out there. I sometimes felt, and she and DDG are young. I interviewed him maybe a couple of years ago. He's a nice guy, but he's obviously enjoying his level of fame. He achieved his fame through YouTube, which requires a different type of energy and a different type of output as far as content. So I will give him that benefit of the doubt. But hey, stop running across the background in videos. Why are you guys making a video and the baby's right there, and then you like cut? Cool, you cut. But why are you including that cut with the baby crying if you're going to upload it? So I just feel like it's kind of like, we're not going to tell you, but
we're going to tease you and play with
we're going to leave you a bunch of breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
And again, they're young, and I get it.
I just think they're playing into the game of social media. I think they're very much aware of people
and their perception
and their prowess. And they, even if you don't give people anything, they're going to investigate and they're going to, put 2 and 2 together and look at reflections and all that anyway. So even, and I respect that she understands the game and plays into it just enough to, keep the machine going.
Because what she said was the world was so excited to meet you. So, when she revealed the picture.
And they were. And she's aware of that. And I feel like people, when you're in this position of celebrity, people are going to grab at you. So you kind of do whatever you can to maintain your sense of privacy and normalcy as long as you can. Because at some point you're going to have to give it up because you have to give everything in a sense. So keeping it private as long as possible and then giving it away when you're ready I'm totally cool with that.
Okay, so shout out to them. Listen, do you watch the Food Network?
Not at all. I stay away from food. I'm a recovering food addict, so I don't want to trigger myself with stuff.
Well,
who's on there?
A former Food Network star. His name is Darnell Ferguson.
Okay.
He is facing several charges of assault after allegedly strangling and threatening to kill an unnamed woman. He's considered a celebrity chef. He's known as Darnell Super Chef. And, he was arrested in Kentucky. So, I really, not that this has, it has something to do with it. It is so interesting to watch as people change or, to get more entitled when they get a little bit of attention. And I'm not saying that this is necessarily what happened with this. It's not. So he starred in several series on the Food Network over the years. And I guess on Tuesday, a little bit before 4 o'clock, he was hit with criminal charges, including burglary, strangulation, terroristic threats, and misdemeanor charges of assault, menacing criminal mischief, and theft receipt of a stolen credit or debit card. You know where this is going, right?
So he got mad because, or whatever. Did somebody take his debit card and he broke in the house and stole it and took it back and then fought him?
He reportedly is accused of entering a woman's home on January 2nd, that they had a previous relationship, strangling her till she passed out, and threatening to kill her. And there was an emergency protective order granted. It's unconfirmed if she's his wife, right? But he has 8 children with his wife, and she does not have any social media or anything like that.
So
Not there.
I'm gonna need people to control themselves. Number one, it's not acceptable.
Put a pin in that. We're going to get into
however,
that.
That's some
on the other side.
That's some tea.
We'll get into more details on the other side. You can't say that. You were locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580. Coming up in hour 2, 50 Cent. Does he mean it? Is he being sincere? All of that and more. Sports and news on the other side.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. It appears fewer migrants from